the time skip in One Piece doesn't last a full 2 years. And Luffy didn't set sail exactly on his 17th birthday either. Why? I will show you in this video. To be precise, we are going to look at the entire timeline of One Piece from Luffy's start to the end of Wano Country. Oda has given us 2 dates. One is the creation of the snow statues of Luffy and Usopp on February 18th, and the other is Tama's birthday on March 3rd. Using these 2 dates, I've attempted to determine the exact timeline of One Piece's journey, day by day, using Oda's additional hints like
3 Tage später
or
3 Tage später
and so on. And it worked! Everything aligns perfectly with all the events. There might be a deviation of ±2 or 3 days. First off, we need to figure out what year One Piece actually takes place in. Okay, it's not that important, but it's interesting. For that, we go to chapter 286, where the flashback of Noland begins, which takes place 400 years ago. In chapter 287, there's a box that indicates the year 1122. Adding 400 years to that, we arrive at the current date, namely 1522. To determine the start of Luffy's journey, we take Oda's snowman's birthday on February 18th and go through every night, every jump and every mansion. Once we have done that, Luffy's journey starts at the age of 17 on the morning of February 6th on his small boat, where he is immediately caught by a whirlpool and washes up at Elvida's main base or something, where Koby discovers him napping. Elvida smashes Koby's homemade boat so that Luffy can give her a proper blueprint with his fist. He steals the boat and sets the sails for Zoro's one-man show. They arrive there, and while Zoro is suffering from malnutrition, Luffy and Koby fill their stomachs. Zoro, at 19, is freed and Koby is left behind so the two can continue sailing together and he can stay with the Marines. Likely the next day, on their way, they end up separated in Orange Town. Here, Luffy skips the hello and directly serves Buggy free flight tickets. After saving their town, and with 18-year-old Nami, they head to the next island. Nami quickly fixes Luffy's head, and then they go ashore to say hello to Gaimon, whose father is probably chilling as a One Piece in a chest. On this island, there are a total of 6 treasure chests and nothing else. Manga readers will know. And once again, it's time to say goodbye. The next morning, they head to Zero Village, where Usopp, then 17, already starts waking up the villagers. Zoro slept through and has fully recovered. Usopp greets the 3, and with Luffy, they overhear Captain Kudo's conversation about planning the raid the next morning. Then, the next morning, the 4 wait at the wrong coast, but still manage to get the job done and put the cat back in the bag. Luffy and crew are more the improvise, adapt, overcome type. As a reward, they get Usopp and the Going Merry, with which they continue to sail, later finish their Jolly Roger and get Johnny and Yosaku on their ship. Off they go to Barati, where they arrive 2 days later and where Luffy ends up doing some penalty work due to a bit of restoring destruction. Gin also gets something to eat that day. 2 days later, on my birthday, Don Krieg shows up, gets beaten, and the journey continues with 19-year-old Sanji to Kokoyashi village to pick up Nami again. And on the same day, they arrive at Kokoyashi village and smash Along Park together with the corrupt Marines. The distance doesn't seem to be too far, considering Nami arrived at Along shortly after Luffy finished with Don Krieg. After the epic smash at Along Park, there's a 3-day victory feast that raises the alcohol level higher than today's rent prices. Which means they set off again on February 16th. Nami changes her clothes, then morning newspaper is bought, so it must be February 17th. Luffy gets his first bounty, conquers the Ace Blue in a storm, and then the adventure continues to Loguetown and beyond to the Grand Line. Luffy pulled through the entire East Blue saga in just 12 days, not even 2 weeks. Most of us take longer to decide what to eat. New clothes for Nami again, and another day later, on February 18th, they cross Reverse Mountain where they met Laboon and Crocus. No time for long waits. Thanks to a log post from Crocus, the crew, along with Vivi and Mr. 9, heads to Whiskey Peak. On the way, 2 snow statues are built, which according to Oda should have happened on February 18th, as they have their birthday on that day. No day has passed because Zoro took a nap at noon, not even realizing that Vivi and Mr. 9 came on board and Nami's clothes were the same as at dawn. The night is spent drinking, Zoro takes care of the bounty hunters and Robin comes and goes again. The sails are set as the sun shines and the crew heads to Little Garden. They arrive at the Jurassic Park exhibit in Little Garden the next day and defeat Mr. 3. Instead of waiting like normal tourists for the next log post update for a year, Sanji secures the log post, allowing them to continue immediately. However, Nami starts to develop a high fever along the way. On that day, Vivi also reads the newspaper that Nami bought 3 days ago. 2 days later, it's all snowy again and the crew encounters Warpol, who wants to sample a piece of the ship but ends up tasting Luffy's bazooka instead. Next time, perhaps he should check out Sanji's kitchen before nibbling on the Going Merry. Time for some sleep so they can repair the ship with renewed strength. Land ho! First they drop anchor, then drag Nami to Dock Kulea, and then throw punches to drive Warpol off Drum Island. It must be February 23rd because Nami was stung on Whiskey Peak 3 days ago. Then, under the full moon that night, they set sail again with a new crew member, the 15-year-old Chopper. After the crew travels for 5 days on the direct route to Alabasta, they encounter Mr. 2 on February 28th. Amid a sea of intrigue and approaching chaos, there's a cause for celebration: Sanji's 20th birthday. 4 more days later, they arrive in Alabasta, where they immediately run into Ace and Smoker. The operation will kick off in 2 days. And at 8 PM, all the higher agents gather at the Spider Cafe. That night, the crew arrives at Yuba and sees what has become of this once oasis. March 5th dawns with the agents gathering at Sir Crocodile to learn more about the plan set to start in 17 hours, while the Straw Hats make their way to Rain Base. After traveling all night, they arrive on March 6th after a 16-hour march through the desert. They are arrested in the casino at exactly 7 AM and Operation Utopia by the Barrack Works starts. Once outside, they head to the capital where Luffy loses his first 3-minute fight against Crocodile. Saved by Robin, the others head to the capital where they first trick the agents to carry out their fights. Around 4 PM, Zoro's fight ends and at 4:15, Luffy gets his second chance on the roof against Crocodile, which also fails. 10 minutes later, Luffy is dehydrated again. At 4:30, the bomb is supposed to explode in the square, which is prevented thanks to the honorable action of Pell. Then, Crocodile is finally defeated in the 3rd fight. The next day, the Marines move on, thus leaving Alabasta. 3 days later, the Straw Hats along with 28-year-old Robin and new bounties set sail as well. Just 18 days after Luffy's first bounty, he has a new one. Zoro has his first and they have all completed Alabasta. Luffy has now been on his journey for 30 days. A good month. But things are about to get wild. At 12 PM on March 8th, they arrive at their ship, where Bon Clay, through a distraction, allows them to continue their journey peacefully and thus say goodbye to Vivi. With Vivi gone, having escaped the Marines, they gain Robin as a crew member. A ship falls from the sky, they find a map of Skypiea and explore the underwater ship where Monkey D. Luffy meets Mazira the Monkey. They cause trouble in Mocktown, sail over to Cricket and in the evening catch the bird as Bellamy messes with Cricket and the others, leading Luffy to retrieve the gold and teach Bellamy that some lessons must be paid for. With one's face. The knock-up stream propels the Straw Hats to Skypiea at 11 AM. Upon arrival, they meet Konis and the others and proceed to take the ball trial, eliminating Satori from the game. They spend the evening camping as Enel prepares his own version of the Avengers for the next day. Enel must have thought, "Let me play Nostradamus here," and whip out his prediction skills. After 3 hours, only 5 fighters out of the original 81 will remain. Viper grills Shura, Zoro cuts down Braham, Viper fights with Luffy, Enel pays a visit to the Going Merry, and Chopper beats Geratsu, all within 2 hours. In the last hour, Robin wins her fight, Chopper loses his, and while Zoro takes care of Ohm, Luffy is trapped inside a snake. The final 3 minutes approach with 6 survivors still standing. And then there was only one left to join Enel on the Maxim. There's the first meeting between Luffy and Enel, followed shortly by the second and, for the time being, the last as Enel retreats to the moon. The night is spent with harsh celebration. And that's it for the Sky. The Skypiea saga condensed into a 3-day trip. Luffy has been on his journey for 33 days now. The first guest book in the One Piece world, the Poneglyph with Roger's signature, is read, and then it's off to the south, back to the Grand Line. They arrive on Long Ring Longland, meet Tonjit and engage in the Davy Bag fight with Foxy. Immediately afterward, they encounter Aokiji and experience the most severe defeat. After such a day, it's perfectly fine to sleep. They get 4 more days of rest on top of that. 3 days later, they encounter a frog at sea trying to stop a train. Water 7 is the next stop, where the crew is served a piece of devastating news. The Going Merry, the ship that has done more than Chocho ever could, is history. Usopp can't accept this. He did his best to protect the money, but lost it, which is why the Frankie family was thoroughly defeated. The duel between Usopp and Luffy takes place at 10 PM. March 19th dawns. The headlines scream "Scandal! Straw Hat crew accused of assassinating Iceberg." Spoiler, they didn't. And Robin is supposed to finish the job in the evening as he's still alive. But he survives that too after the Straw Hats make the acquaintance of CP9. At 11 PM, the train to Enies Lobby departs. Having arrived at the nightless island of Enies Lobby, they storm it and defeat one CP9 agent after another. When the Buster Call arrives, the Going Merry makes its final action to save the Straw Hats from the Buster Call and afterwards receives a sea burial. RIP Going Merry on March 20th, 1522. 2 days later, some discussions take place and in the evening there's a celebration. The next day, Frankie starts working with the others on building the Thousand Sunny as the newspaper arrives while Garp stops by for a chat. Meanwhile, Shanks makes it clear to Whitebeard that letting Ace play with Blackbeard isn't a good idea. Blackbeard has just read the newspaper and is eager to capture Luffy, but Ace arrives to sacrifice himself, his crew, Josu's arm and the little leisure time Whitebeard had left. So, even if Whitebeard had said okay to Shanks, he couldn't have done anything about it. Fortunately, the Sunny is completed in 3 days, and to see the fight, we go 3 days into the past. So, today. Thus, the Sunny is finished on March 26th, and they immediately set sail with 34-year-old Frankie. Conclusion: Enies Lobby cracked in 16 days. The Straw Hat crew definitely didn't hold back. Luffy has been on course for a total of 49 days. The Going Merry holds strong for an impressive 46 days. On the same day, Luffy and Usopp catch a shark and throw it into the aquarium. But that's not even the biggest catch of the day, as they also meet the 88-year-old Brook. With him in tow, they dock a thriller bark. Right on time at midnight, the zombie bodies are unleashed. Ors is revived, Zoro fights Ryuma for 5 minutes, the Straw Hats fight Ors together, and Luffy takes on Moria before the birds start their morning songs. During this, Luffy's nightmare form lasts only for 10 minutes. After the power dissipates, Luffy has to wrap things up within 20 minutes. By 5:30 AM, the battle had ended. Peace comes only after Kuma is driven away, with Zoro offering himself up. Ace's capture makes the newspaper headlines. Everyone sleeps through the day, allowing Brook to join the crew the next day. 2 days later, Zoro finally wakes up and the journey continues. The whole haunted house party, aka Thriller Bark Saga, unfolds over 5 days, bringing Luffy's travel time to 54 days. On April 1st, Usopp then blows out 19 candles. And as if they would coordinate it, 2 days later, Brook follows suit with his 89th birthday. Several days after leaving Thriller Bark, they arrive at the Red Line. Several days are 4 or 5 days. On the page before, we see 4 different things and 2 climate zones. With 2 climate zones on one page, you might almost believe the weather is bipolar. So we're going with 5 days rather than 4. Thus they meet Kami and are attacked by the Flying Fish Riders on April 4th, changing the boss's face, and with Hachan's liberation all is well again. By the afternoon they have already eaten. Right after, they head to Sapaodi. There we have the auction at 4 PM, the punch against Carlos, and thus the fight against the Pacifista, Kizaru and Sentomaru, with Kuma strategically blasting away the Straw Hats. Brook had only known the Straw Hats for 10 days at this point. 2 days later, Luffy arrives on Amazon Lily. Luffy wakes up after eating a poisonous mushroom, is hunted on the island, meets Hancock and fights her sisters, leading to Hancock falling in love with him. He befriends them, and after celebrating into the morning, he learns of Ace's planned execution. So he immediately sets off with Hancock. It takes 4.5 days to get from Amazon Lily to Impel Down. There, Luffy causes major chaos and takes down everyone except Magellan. Meanwhile, Shanks' entry. The red-haired pirate makes it clear to Kaido and King in the New World that today is not the day for a clash of titans. Bon Clay makes a heroic move in the evening, managing to bring Luffy to Ivankov by midnight. The day of the execution, on April 12th, 1522 at 8 AM, Ace starts his long walk, exactly when Luffy has recovered. At 10:30, there are still about 4 hours left until the execution starts. 3 hours before, at 11:30, the event begins as the Whitebeard Alliance as well as Whitebeard himself show up at Marineford. 1.5 hours later, at 1 PM, Sentomaru arrives with the Pacifista to join in. By just before 2 PM, the war is over and the battle has ended. Ace dies at the age of 20, Whitebeard at 72. 2 weeks later, life goes on without Ace, which is something Luffy struggles to accept. He reminisces about when Sabo asked Ace who was older between the two. In short, Sabo is about 8.5 months older and thus the oldest brother of the three. Jinbei consoles Luffy while Rayleigh joins them. Under his protection, he plans to train Luffy and prepare him for the new world. But first, the other crew members need to be informed. 3 weeks since the war, Luffy sails with Rayleigh and Jinbei to the Marine headquarters to ring the bell 16 times. This journey apparently takes about a week. On the return trip, Luffy celebrates his 18th birthday. During this time, the other supernovae are making their first step in the new world, while Doflamingo has a conversation with CP0 about Moria. Back in Hancock's garden, better known as Amazon Lily, they immediately begin the long training period, which does not last 2 years. The Summit War saga lasted 41 days from when they set sail at Thriller to the beginning of the training. And so, our hero has collected quite a few stories after a brisk 95 days at sea. During the time skip, numerous birthdays are celebrated. Nami celebrates her 19th birthday on July 3rd. Zoro's 20th is reserved for November 11th. Christmas in the One Piece world is doubly special as Chopper celebrates his 16th birthday that year. Robin turns 29 on February 6th. Sanji celebrates his 21st birthday on March 2nd. Frankie turns 36 on March 9th. Usopp celebrates his 19th on April 1st, Jinbei his 45th on the 2nd, and Brook his 19th on April 3rd. Luffy turns 19 on May 5th. Nami reaches round 20 on July 3rd. Again on November 11th, Zoro turns 21, followed by another reindeer Christmas for Chopper, who turns 17. Then, amidst all these birthdays, Jack appears in Zou on February 4th. It took 656 days, not 730, for the crew to reunite on February 6th, exactly on Robin's 30th birthday, aligning all the ages we've received. A month later and Sanji would have been 22. Therefore, and because of backtracking Tama's birthday, the time skip could not have lasted 2 full years. Oddly, it precisely matches the day Luffy first set sail, which also seems to be when they sailed into the new world. Kami probably thought they would start at the beginning of the year and was off by a month. And in just 1 day, the Straw Hats pulled through the entire Fishman Island saga. Thus, after the Fishman Island saga, the Straw Hats are reunited for a single day. They celebrate at night as Hody and the others turn into Surströmming. And even though Shirahoshi has just met Luffy, they must already depart. They surface right before Punk Hazard. One group goes on to defeat a dragon, meet Kinemon's lower body, while the others are put to sleep and taken away. On the same day, the fight between Jack and the Minks on Zou comes to an end. It seems they pull an all-nighter on Punk Hazard as Kuzan wakes up from a nap. Also, Doflamingo's resignation is to be announced in the next morning's newspaper. Meanwhile, Jack concludes his massacre on the Minks on Zou and leaves. As if on cue, the morning newspaper of February 9th also reports Doflamingo's resignation as a warlord. On the same day, they arrive at Dressrosa and at 3 PM the handover of Caesar takes place. In the tournament, Luffy meets the now 22-year-old Sabo. All the other fights occur throughout the day. The one-on-one fight between Luffy and Doflamingo, including the 10-minute break, lasts about 15 minutes. After that, it's a good time for a rest. The next day, the other half of the Straw Hats beat up some of Kaido's people, and Kaido beats up Kid and his alliance. After the Straw Hats recover from the fight against Doflamingo for 3 days, it's time to set sail again after forming the alliance. And voila! A week on the road and the Pirate Alliance saga comes to an end. A week later, on February 19th, thanks to Bartolomeo's help, they manage to reach Zou. When they finally get to the top, the sun has already set. But the effort is well worth it, because now it's party time! The next morning breaks as Kinemon reaches Zou, Robin reads the Poneglyph, Jack is blown away by Sunisha, and to rescue Sanji from trouble, the Straw Hats split up and set off separately. On the same day, Luffy manages to make all the provisions inedible. Roughly 5 days later, Luffy is poisoned, saved, and they arrive at Totoland, Chocolate Town, continuing their journey to Whole Cake Island. The night passes and by the morning, Whole Cake Island is in sight. But there's no time to rest, as in the seducing woods they encounter a tough commander, Cracker. Luffy fights Cracker for 11 hours into the next morning, concluding with Tankman and moving on. At 12 PM it's time for Sanji, where Luffy allows himself to be beaten by him. Around 2 PM, Luffy is beaten by the army and captured. The evening doesn't go well for Sanji either, as he also gets his heart broken. Behind bars is not where Luffy likes to be, so he makes a quick escape. At 5 AM, while some are savoring a Krabby Patty, others meet with Sanji, and then at 6:30, the strategy meeting with Capone begins. The Windsmokes arrive at 9:45. The tea party starts at 10. The wedding is crashed, Big Mom chases the Straw Hats. Luffy vs Katakuri starts at noon. Katakuri takes his meal break at 3:40 PM. The fight just continues after that. The battle lasts until 12:40 AM. At 1 AM they exit the Mirror World, where Luffy reunites with the others and escapes from Big Mom's territory, which takes hours. Luffy is declared the 5th Emperor and Lulusia is protected by the revolutionaries from Pinkbeard. Coincidentally, March 1st is when, in 1919, South Korea held a mass demonstration against Japanese colonial rule. And since 2014, March 1st is also internationally recognized as Zero Discrimination Day. Kings arrive one after another at Marijoa to participate in the Reverie happening the next day. Oh, and happy birthday to Sanji, who just turned 22. The Reverie starts. On the same day, Luffy and the others arrive at Wano Country, where they are washed ashore. There, they meet more people, only to be beaten up by Kaido and locked up, which quickly becomes known. The next day, Luffy arrives in prison. 2 days later, the revolutionaries crash the Reverie. While Luffy and Kid are getting used to prison life and labor, Moria attacks the Blackbeard pirates. A new day brings the new work in prison. Big Mom arrives, gets knocked down by King, and is washed ashore. Apparently, Luffy with the smaller Thousand Sunny was a bit faster, taking only 2 days, while Big Mom took 5 days. The next morning, Big Mom is a bit forgetful, but otherwise in good spirits. The big battle is scheduled to start in 9 days. So she heads to the prison with them. Queen arrives at the prison the same day and plays some games with Luffy. Also, Zoro defeats Killer, and Frankie celebrates his 37th birthday that day. Queen receives bad news right after waking up. Yasui is publicly executed, Killer is captured and tortured along with Kid, until Big Mom appears in the prison. She causes a commotion until Queen hits her with a headbutt. Law gets captured. In the evening, Big Mom gets something to eat and fight against Kaido. The next day, with only 7 days to go, the fight between them continues. The reverie concludes and the kings return to their countries. Law manages to escape when there were only 6 days left. Luffy intensely trains in prison, reducing the countdown to 5 days. This is crucial as Kaido and Big Mom cease fighting and form an alliance instead. Zoro also receives a power-up in form of Enma, which he needs to train with. With only 3 days until the showdown, everyone diligently prepares and continues their training. 2 days remain, the crew is counted and preparations conclude. On the last day, every move must be precise. The samurai are ready and head to the meeting point, but no one is there yet. The day of the festival begins. However, Kinemon's alliance seems to be delayed as they are not there by 6 PM. Nonetheless, they proceed, discover Kanjiro is a traitor and find that the Straw Hats, Kid Pirates and Heart Pirates are there with additional support. Moreover, Jinbei officially joins the crew. Thus, the great battle commences, in which the Beast Pirates, including Kaido, along with Big Mom as Emperor, are defeated. Hence, March 18th, 1524 marks the end of Hawkins and many others, but also for Kaido and Big Mom as Emperors. Sabo wird 23 Jahre alt. 7 days later, the country has had a chance to recover. It's peaceful and there's a new leader. Additionally, there are new bounties and 2 new emperors, namely Monkey D. Luffy and Buggy D. Clown. In the evening, a celebration takes place again, but Green Bull shows up, drains a few Beast Pirates and tries to dampen the spirits. But not with Momo and the others around. He then retreats after Shanks gives him a scare. The next day, everyone is doing well again and Shinobu even gets a bit of an upgrade thanks to Green Bull's actions. The Cross Guild is formed and all 3 pirate crews set sail again. This is March 26th, 1524, the last date that can be determined with relative precision. The 4 Emperor saga, despite having a lot of long arcs, totaled only 42 days. This includes the journey to Zou, the adventures in Whole Cake and everything in Wano. So only 49 days have passed since the time skip. Brook has been sailing with Luffy and the others for just 59 days. And without considering the skip, he's been sailing for only 144 days. And that's Luffy's entire journey up to Wano Country. It's actually much shorter than one might have initially thought. But that's it again from me. I hope you enjoyed it and feel free to write your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to see more One Piece videos, you can click here to watch all the defeats of Zoro. And if you don't want to miss anything anymore, then you can click here to subscribe. But that's it again from me. We'll see us next time, so take care, my friends.